back to Fashion Founders, the podcast. My name is Victoria Smith, and this week I'm joined with Ginny Seymour, the CEO and re-founder of Aligne. If you're not familiar with Aligne, I can almost guarantee you have seen one of their viral blazers on social media. They make everyday elevated pieces, and I've actually worn quite a bit of Aligne on the podcast because I find it to be perfect for a professional setting, but still stylish. And if you're wondering, did she say refounder and not just founder? Yes, and I will let Ginny get into that and her vision for the brand. They are a UK-based brand, but have a very big presence in New York now and recently launched in Nordstrom, so they are here to stay. I also really appreciate having Ginny's perspective because there haven't been as many guests on the podcast in the traditional fashion industry, which I mean as making and selling clothes as retailers and less so in the tech space. Just because tech isn't the biggest part of it doesn't mean that these brands aren't innovative. I think that innovation can manifest in many different ways. For example, Aligne is really focused on working with female athletes as brand ambassadors. And as the collaborations between the sports and fashion world grows, I think this is a really cool space to be a part of. Whether you're an aspiring founder or you already have a clothing brand and you have those kind of detailed questions that only someone in the space can relate to, I think you'll get a lot from this episode. I'm so excited to welcome Ginny to the podcast, so let's get into the episode. This week's spotlight is the brand Aligne, and it is the chicest toothpaste I have ever used. They are creating a luxe oral care brand that treats oral care like skincare. The founder, Brittany, shared with me that as a former beauty buyer, she hated brushing her teeth. The toothpaste were full of bad ingredients in messy tubes, and she felt like brushing her teeth was a chore, especially compared to her skincare routine, which was her daily ritual. She has spent 5 years creating Aligne, a brand designed to make you fall in love with caring for your teeth. Aligne's toothpaste is sleek and formulated with high-quality, clinically backed ingredients, and their viral whitening polish gently removes surface stains without causing sensitivity for whiter, more radiant teeth. All of Aligne's products have been formulated with a team of leading dentists and chemists and are non-toxic, vegan, and gluten-free. Until I heard Brittany talk about this, I didn't really realize how brushing my teeth was not this exciting, peaceful ritual like skincare is. And now that I'm using Aligne, first of all, the packaging is so chic and it just looks so good on your sink or wherever you put it. But using the toothpaste, I'm not trying to squeeze out a toothpaste tube, getting like the last little remnants out. The packaging is like a skincare packaging. You can see a video on their social media. Okay, and their whitening paste, maybe I'm crazy. I kind of feel like I already see a difference after a few uses. And usually my teeth get so sensitive after I use a whitening strip. Like even biting into something like an apple hurts, but this is the best of both worlds because it's whitening my teeth without the consequence of the pain. I think what she's building is so cool and brilliant, and she's really a pioneer in this market. Also, if you like founder content, you should definitely follow them on Instagram and TikTok. And also her handle on TikTok is the Tooth Fairy, which I think is so cute. I really feel like this brand is going to be big. You can find them at aramecare.com. That's ARAME. And you can use code FOUNDERS10 in all caps for 10% off your first order. I am loving using these products. I feel like it's really elevated my morning and nighttime routine. Let me know what you guys think. Hi, Ginny.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I am so excited that we get to do this. I know you just moved to New York, so this is great timing. And if we can get started with a bit of your introduction and your background, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm Ginny Seymour. I'm the CEO of Aligne, a women's ready-wear contemporary brand. I founded it in East London and have just moved to New York as our sales in the US have now taken over the UK and really building on this next chapter of the brand.
So exciting. And I saw in an article recently that you said you'd always dreamed of being the CEO of a fashion brand. So what was your journey like to getting there and your interest in the fashion industry growing up?
Yeah, so growing up, I wasn't the little girl that dreamt about fashion. I never thought about how clothing got into a store. I just kind of knew what stores I liked. But I've always kind of been an early bloomer, and I wanted to graduate university a year early. And I had to come home at Christmas with a plan of what I was going to do, and I had no plan. I'm a poli-sci major. I thought I'd be a lawyer, but deep down loved business and numbers. And I was shopping on Saks.com and I saw they had a link for a training program. And I thought, this is brilliant. I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to join this program and have a year or two in the city. And then I'll figure out what I want to do afterwards. It was a bit more nuanced than that. I got accepted into the program, and then they realized I was Canadian, and I got unaccepted from the program. And then I wrote a letter to the president at the time, not realizing that maybe I was being a bit forward, and I got invited back down. And I remember going into his office, and he said, "I needed to meet the 21-year-old who told Saks they were wrong." And at that
Wow.
point, I knew I had, like, maybe been a bit more bashful than I had thought, but ended up getting into the program and moving to New York, and I fell in love from day one. Honestly, there couldn't have been an industry that I felt more spoke to my skill set, what I loved. I loved learning about why customers were buying what they were buying and just what goes into that kind of process of choosing to pick a piece over another piece, and just felt so instantaneous that I
Mhm.
found the right career for me, and from that moment on, I only dreamt of being a CEO of a women's ready-wear brand.
I love that. I was a government major, and I love when I hear about people having these, like, liberal arts degrees, but then being in fashion because I think it just shows the variety of, like, thinking and mindset that you can bring to this
Yeah, it's a
industry.
critical thinking. One of the first things they did at Saks on the first day of the training program was sit everyone down, and there's 20 people that get into the program, and then everyone go around the room and saying what they majored in
Mhm.
and where they went to university. And we all went around and, I was poli-sci, people were chemistry, people were bio, different
Yeah.
degrees. And the point at the end was that they didn't hire anyone that had come from fashion, that they wanted
Interesting.
critical thinkers and that they were going to teach us how to buy. So from like that moment, it's also impacted how I hire people, that it's been a way of thinking versus what you do at university.
Yeah, I love that and how they can apply it to almost
Absolutely.
anything.
Yeah.
So we're both wearing a line right now, which is so funny. It's the same one. And this is from your new collection, but I've really noticed you guys do marketing really, really well because I swear I see these designs on like every influencer. So what was some of this marketing strategy? Like, is it affiliate? Was it influencer gifting? How did you approach this with a line?
So we started with ShopMy. We were one of the
Okay.
first UK brands to ever adopt ShopMy. We're only 2 years old, and we needed to figure out kind of what we were doing right or wrong, and we didn't really have the capacity to think about kind of global growth. We're a UK brand, but ShopMy and Tiffany reached out, and it just seemed like such an interesting platform. Again, the analytical side to it, it brought clarity into who was driving your sales, not just that your sales were
Mhm.
coming from content creators. And I thought, why not plug it in? There's no harm, and I kind of let it run in the background for a year, and in a year, through ShopMy and gifting and just, seeding product, it was always Daphne, which is our long line waisted blazer. It was always the first purchase,
Mm.
and we grew to 1,000,000 in US revenue without doing a single paid ad or doing
Wow.
kind of any initiative within the US, and it really kind of became its own thing. Daphne is everyone's first purchase. It's the product that introduces them to a line. So it's kind of become this thing, but I wouldn't say that we went out trying to make Daphne the item we were known for. The customers really told us that's what they wanted, but, deep down, Daphne is my favorite item in
It
the
is.
entire collection, and it's the item that when I designed Daphne, it's when I knew who the Align customer was, so I couldn't be more proud that that's the item, and, as a young brand, I love going on TikTok and having people refer to it as, like, the Align blazer or other
Mm.
product and saying, "Oh, it's an Align dupe." To make that resonance so quickly,
Yeah.
is really powerful, but
And you mentioned the designs. Are you part of the design team in creating the
so
blazers?
I do all the creative direction for the brand. So
Really?
I lead all the concepts. I have an amazing group of designers that
Yeah.
I work with from like the sketching and the fit of the product, but I kind of lead what the colors and the creative direction of each collection is going to be.
Very cool. What part of your background does that kind of come into?
I think being a buyer is always this, this conversation about the balance of art and science.
Yeah.
I think you have to have both. And I think every buyer dreams of playing designer. And I think I got the opportunity to refound Align. It was the opportunity to be like, okay, what would I do? What would I create in a collection?
Mm.
What do I want as a consumer that I'm not finding on the marketplace? So much of what Align is this filling a white space or a void of this nostalgic feeling I had towards, contemporary brands. I was a contemporary buyer, and over the years, contemporary became premium contemporary. But where did design-led, affordable pieces live that, I want to consume as someone in my mid-30s at the time and now mid-40s?
Yeah.
So just watching that evolution is something that I knew I wanted to fill that void.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you refound Align. What was your entry point into this new chapter?
So when I moved to the UK, I actually moved to the UK in 2020 in the height of COVID, not on purpose. We had planned it. I have a British husband and he really wanted our 2 boys to experience, British culture.
Mhm.
So we had this well planned out move and put our whole life on a shipping container, and a month later it was COVID and we never thought we'd see that container again. And that move sparked this shift from me always being at large corporations and in, these big retail corporate structures. And I found myself given an opportunity to move into startup. And I joined Astronomy, a jewelry company based
Mhm.
in the UK, as their first director overseeing their product and sustainability, and fell in love with startup. Like I never even thought I would end up in a startup environment, but it was so nimble, it was so quick. You could make changes and see this impact, really, really quickly, and just loved that environment. But deep down, I was always an apparel girl. And I didn't necessarily love jewelry. I don't wear a lot of jewelry, and it just wasn't a product that kind of made me, excited from a day-to-day basis. And I got the opportunity to join another startup that Align lived in as a kind of a parent company. And it was a startup about apparel. And I thought, this is perfect. It's calling me into this company. But quickly after I got there was a bit of a restructure. And I was given the challenge of that previous brand being wrapped up and, what would I build? I had 2 weeks to kind of put together a business plan of what I thought Align should be. And then between February 2023 and August 1st, 2023, we kind of slowly wrapped up the previous brand and made some changes in our strategy and relaunched kind of what we internally call Line 2.0 August 1st, 2023.
Wow, so only 2 years.
Mhm.
You guys have also grown very quickly in those 2 years, and I'm sure that ShopMy and affiliates is a big part of it, and you're now have this really big presence in the US. You have a partnership with Nordstrom. When did you decide, "Okay, we're moving this, like, not headquarters here," but you are expanding your US
Yeah,
presence?
absolutely. I right now I refer to London as our creative hub and the US
Yeah.
as, our new commercial hub. But I guess after that first year of ShopMy and just seeing this initial response from US customers, I made the decision in August 2024 to get a US PR company.
Mm.
Knowing that we, as a young brand, and there was still so much growth in the UK, we kept talking about coming to New York and doing something, but I knew the only way to get us there was to, like, hire a PR company and, like, set a date for October for a press day, and that you had to put it in the calendar and it would happen, and we came last October, so kind of a year into the journey, and had this press day, and it was so positive. Everyone was talking about the quality, their favorite piece, their Daphne, their George, and it was just I didn't know what to expect. I had low expectations. I just left feeling, like, so on cloud 9 that the US was really where I saw the growth. And then we came back in February for New York Fashion Week, and we did kind of our first event on the eve of Fashion Week. We were too nervous to do it during Fashion Week at the time. And again, it was just this, like, positive environment. And I remember that trip thinking, "I'm moving to New York, I'm opening an office. Like, this is where this is taking us.
Yeah.
Like, this is where the expansion is, and this is kind of" never thought I'd be moving back to New York with my husband and 2 kids, having only been in the UK for 5 years. But it was just so powerful what those events were, and it just during that trip, Nordstrom slid into my DMs because my customer service team knew that if anyone asked about wholesale, the answer was no. So, like, I had scripted them, and every time someone would reach out for wholesale, they would text me and say, "Do you want to have a conversation?" I said, "Guys, the answer is we're direct to consumer, we're not doing wholesale." But they didn't know deep in the US, I had a different strategy that I was envisioning and that I would be open to those conversations with there's a few partners I manifested, Nordstrom being one of them.
Mm.
So, the buyer at Nordstrom had gone to customer service, gotten told no, and then slid into my DMs and was like, "I know I got a no, but, like, I really need to talk to you. I really wanna talk about Align." And I just couldn't believe that that had happened. So that's
I
when I
love that
knew.
they went via DM.
Yeah.
So why not wholesale? Why so gung ho on D2C?
I think as a buyer myself, as a background, I wanted 2 years to be selfish and to
Mm.
be able to have a one-to-one conversation with our customer and to know who Align was, and to get that data firsthand to build our community and to also be able to pivot really quickly. Once you do wholesale, you're on a longer lead calendar, you become dependent on your partners, you learn your customer through their customer lens. And I think as a buyer who would go into showrooms and say, "Can I have that top in pink and change this and, make this
Mm.
shorter?" Until you know who you are, that can be dangerous where you wake up 3, 5 years down the road and you think, "I don't recognize this." And I think until you know who you are, it's hard not to say yes to those decisions if you're building your business model around it. So I was really lucky that when I pitched this new version, the first thing I did is say, "And I'm gonna get rid of all the revenue we currently have, and I'm gonna start over." It was the scariest thing that I've ever done to say, "I'm just starting from scratch again, and we're gonna rebuild this direct to consumer first." But it allowed us to get information in and take a mini dress and turn it into a maxi dress really, really quickly and not have to worry about who had ordered it, who do I have to tell. So it allowed us to kind of, I think, grow and fuel this growth so quickly, but always saw once we got there and once we knew who we were. I didn't know whether it would be 1 year or 5 years, but once I knew who Align was, that I always saw wholesale as being a really powerful tool to amplify that brand awareness. And, I don't see for Align brick and mortar being part of my strategy for the next 2 years. And wholesale can provide that in-store environment where your customers can try on the brand and touch and feel it. And I think that's very powerful.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that's great advice for people who have or aspire to have fashion businesses is like really build out who you are and keep that touch point
Yeah,
before trying to go big and mainstream.
absolutely.
And talking about who Align is, I really noticed you guys have this connection and alignment with women athletes and female athletes. And I'm curious where that came from. And like, are you a previous athlete?
I'm athletic person in the world, and it's just ironic that I've landed in this space. But in the UK, the Lionesses have
Mhm.
created such powerful change in women's soccer or football. And you couldn't not feel that living in the UK and, being there when they won the Euros on home soil and just recently winning the Euros again. There's been this cosmic shift in support and, seeing London filled, with all these fans afterwards. But even though I was seeing this shift, I wasn't seeing representation of females in advertising campaigns or womenswear
Mm.
brands. And, I didn't realize I was a feminist until later in life. But you think about male athletes and when they're at their prime or a team wins, every fashion magazine is covering them and using them as the epitome of, what masculinity is. And I thought, I was trying to, every brand has values. And we talk about Align as being a brand for confident females. And I thought in August 2023, when we were just restarting, we were planning out our first ever campaign. And I was trying to figure out who to put in that campaign and how to showcase people that Align with for confident females. And I was watching the Lionesses play Australia in the semifinals in our office. And I thought, that's who it's going to be. It's going to be one of the Lionesses. Specifically, it's going to be Lucy Bronze, like very narrow on who it was going to be, because she was one of the older players who'd been through kind of the change of what had happened in female sports, and she was in our target audience. I just loved how strong she was and who she was on the pitch. But I became very like narrow sighted on this, and this was how I was going to show the world that the most confident female is a female athlete, and I don't want to be described as sensitive and weak. I want to be described as strong, ambitious, unapologetic.
Yeah.
So just the alignment, it's impossible not to do,
Yeah.
came, and it's just spiraled into such a positive thing, and people really understand who Align is through our values.
And the partnership with Lucy Bronze happened.
Yeah.
It's
No,
you
she was the
manifested
first face.
it.
I slid into her team's DMs in LinkedIn, I will say, because I could not find her. But she took a risk on a small brand. Like, I thought she would say no to us because at that time, we were 3 months into this kind of refounding. We were so new. And she was Lucy Bronze to me. Like, she was all I wanted to be in this campaign. And ironically, through knowing her and through kind of our relationship building these past kind of 2 years, she, on the reverse side, never thought a fashion brand would come to her
Hmm.
because she's one of the stronger athletes and she has muscular arms and all, she thought if a fashion brand was going to work with a female athlete, her, aesthetic wouldn't be the one that they would come after.
Hmm.
So, and I think our relationship, and we just launched our collaboration that we kind of designed together last week, where she's moved from being the face of to a partner, really has been based on this understanding of that, like, no, you were exactly who I wanted, and
Yeah.
we were exactly who she wanted to kind of bring her style to life. So it's really been authentic.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's really
Thank
exciting when
you.
you have that vision and it really comes to life. And I definitely see it's paying off because I saw you were named on the Raise Power 100 for championing women's athletes. So it's paying off and it's
I mean,
working.
the list on that, like, have my name with some of those names on a list is just incredible. But it's nice to, we're a small brand, but I think sometimes small brands think that they need to wait for others to do it first. They don't have permission to be the
Mhm.
first in areas that they believe in. And it's nice to see that it's a small brand. We're getting the recognition that
Yeah.
we're making some choices that have positive impact.
And I really see the collaboration between fashion and sports is just continues to grow so much, even with I think like the WNBA players here in the
Yeah,
US
that
when
was
they're
amazing.
walking and
The
like they're in
tunnel.
the tunnel, I feel like it's paparazzi shots, the tennis players at the US Open. I think the US Open got more media coverage than New York Fashion Week, some people were saying. So,
And we're Gotham FC's style partners. So
oh,
we do their style fit walks in the tunnel, which has been really fun to kind of bring that value to the US in the same way.
yeah, for sure. Are there other things coming up that you're excited about that you want to implement as CEO and refounder?
I mean, there's so much coming up. I think we're still so young as a
Yeah.
brand. I really think Align, one of my favorite things about it is that every piece is considered and that we go through a really thorough design process to get the pieces in the collection. And I think some brands grow by expanding their collections,
Mm.
but I wanted to make sure that every piece is there for a reason. But I see our growth coming from expanding categories. So right now, going through what those categories would be, but I really think Align is a lifestyle, and it's you put the pieces on and you feel confident and ready to go, and I think there's other categories that
Mm.
would also complement that ease that I think I'm really excited about.
Yeah. I can see you guys doing like work bags because I've been on the lookout for one and I can't find one that
It's
suits
hard
what
to
I
find, I
need.
know, work bags, I think yeah, ironically, I think jewelry, even though I left it,
Ooh,
I think there's just some complementary things that really can complement what it means to be, a line
definitely.
style.
Do you ever walk down the street and you're like, that girl's in a line, she's in a line?
I do. I have fangirl moments. I think last week was the first time in New York City
Hmm.
that I saw someone wearing a line. Like in London, it's become a bit more common. The first 2 times I would like stop and gasp, but I had kind of gotten a bit cooler in London. But I do, if I see someone on like the tube and they're wearing a line dress, I do get closer to them and see if we make eye contact so we can like have a conversation. But last week I was walking home and there was the most stylish lady on the Upper East Side wearing one of our latest kind of it's called Shirley. It's this kind of ombre cardigan and had
Hmm.
just come out. We had an influencer wear it last week, but this is before that. So it was just like she naturally
Oh.
knew who Align was and had bought it before we did any marketing on this style. And she was walking with a friend, and I literally gasped on the street. And I was like, luckily she didn't notice me or stop to be like, who is this weirdo? I was going to have to engage with her at that point because it was like an oh my God moment. I've just seen Align in New York. We've actually
I feel
done
like
it.
you could totally go up and be like, hey, I'm the CEO of this company. If that happened to me, I'd be like, this is so cool.
I think if she had given me eye contact, I would have, like, gone in for it, but I think if I had interrupted her and her friend mid-conversation, like,
True,
going
true.
down, she'd be like, "Who is this complete weirdo? I'm never buying this brand again."
Next time, people will start to know you, I feel like, with your presence here growing.
I think that's one of the interesting things about being a CEO founder is that now who the CEO and founder is so much part of the story,
Hmm.
and that's probably one thing that when I dreamt about being a CEO wasn't part of the dream. It's not that
Mm.
it's a bad thing, it's just something that it's newer. I think that you have to be so public in kind of your
Yeah.
profile and sharing who you are.
Is there something you'd want people to know about you as CEO and founder of Align?
That's a good question. I just think that, like, I want people to know that this is my passion project and that this is something that I'm building for people like me. So it's a brand for working females. It's for confident females. And I think when the founder authentically likes what they're doing and authentically
Mm.
building something that feels close to them, those are my favorite founders to follow and follow their journeys and stories and root for their success.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the things about doing this in the UK, which has been nice, is there's such a strong community of female founders, and it's a quite close-knit group of people where, we openly slide into each other's DMs and say
Yeah.
positive things, and it just feels like such a supportive a lot of the high street is British female brands right now, so it's
Yeah.
nice to kind of bring that to the US, and we're equally sharing each other's we're all kind of growing in the US at the same time, and it's nice because it feels like Align is a lot younger in the UK, but it kind of feels like we've all started to grow in the US at the same time, and it kind of feels like I'm an even kid on the playing ground here, so we can, like, share in each other's stories, where back in the UK, I'm more just fangirling, saying, "Oh, how did you do that by this time?" And, "Give me some advice," where
Yeah.
here it feels like we might be ahead in some areas, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll find that community here. There's such a
Yeah.
strong fashion community in New
Well, it's
York.
been nice coming back. So many of my friends are still here and
Yeah.
still in the industry, and it's, fashion, people think is this huge industry, but it's actually really, really small.
Yeah. And you've mentioned sliding into DMs a couple of times. And something I often ask on the podcast, because there's some people listen for like career advice or founder stories or a
Mhm.
little bit of everything. Something I try to touch on is like, what's the best way to actually reach out to someone? Like someone as busy as you, you're a founder, CEO. What stands out? Is it email? Whether if it's like a partnership, hey, I'm another founder, I just moved to New York too, like let's connect. Like
Yeah.
what works, would you say?
I would say for me, my DMs seem to be very successful, partly because part of my job is to be so socially engaged with what's
Mm,
going on. So I'm constantly on social media, much to my husband's dismay when I say it's for my job. But I'm also like on the Aligne social media.
mm,
So I don't think people realize that probably half of the conversations that happen on our Instagram account, it's me responding to customers, to
really?
influencers, to people who are reaching out and writing it. At this stage, it's my job to be so involved in the details and to know what's
Yeah.
coming through, positive and negative. Sometimes I go over my pay grade in customer service and I try to help a situation and I definitely make it worse and have to slowly back out of that conversation in the DMs when I realize that besides where's your order, I'm very not useful. But I do think in socially native brands or DTC brands, that is the best way. We get so many emails and so many salesy pitches and people are getting more aggressive with follow-ups and everything else, the emails get lost. I would say I have over 10,000 unread emails because I scan and move on to
Oh
the
my
next day.
gosh.
So I need an AI tool to
I
help
was
me
gonna say there
with
has to
that.
be some B2B
Um,
SaaS product for
but I
that.
feel I'm so engaged to, like, what's happening on social and having that conversation. It feels, again, like a direct conversation. I love to have one-to-one conversations with people.
That's fun to know that sometimes you're the one behind the Align DMs because I feel like people are just like, "Oh, it's some social media intern responding, not potentially the
I was
CEO."
at an event last week, and person that was at the event was like, "Oh, yeah, I messaged us on social media." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, he was talking to me." She was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I was the one responding. I was the one that placed your order for you and, like, got it sent to you." They're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm equally as capable as anyone else to have a conversation and send it back."
Yeah.
My favorite thing before bed is to go through every order and see what people are buying. So
Wow.
I would dream one day a line's big enough that I can't do that, but right now, that's kind of my bedtime routine is to go through every order.
Is there anything that's really surprised you about running a fashion brand?
I think that coming from, like, bigger organizations, growth is somewhat, like, controlled, and it's so much predictable, and there's big planning teams, and there's a bit of a formula to that growth. I had thought it would be like climbing a mountain. It would be, one foot in front of the other, and you would grow in this very linear uphill kind of line,
Hmm.
and I quickly realized it's a roller coaster, and having to get okay with the lows, because sometimes the low happened because the high was too high. When we launched Lucy Bronze as our face of our first campaign, we sold out of too much product, which mean we immediately had a low because we had to then rebuild to a new level of sales we weren't anticipating.
Yeah.
So it's much more of a roller coaster than I had anticipated, and having to be okay with that and realize that the lows might feel like a failure, but actually it's because of a success and that you're just trying to grow so quickly. That took probably a year for me to, like, not take them personally and to
Yeah.
now see them as opportunity, but the first year was hard.
And it's only been 2 years, and I feel like you guys are really big for 2 years, so congrats.
Thank you. It's exciting though. It's a dream come true. It's everything.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for other founders out there based on what you've learned so far?
I know it's so cliche, but I think it's trust your gut. I think that in those first, couple months when, we had gone through this big transition as a company and I had been given this position, an opportunity to kind of restart the brand and we moved offices and there was a lot of change going on. I was trying to create such a positive environment and sometimes not saying what I wanted to say and trying to let other people's voices have an equal part to mine. And those were some of my biggest mistakes I made in those first kind of 6 months. Once I became comfortable with saying, "This is what a line is, this is what it's gonna be," and bring people on that journey, things became a lot clearer and actually a much more enjoyable and, like, kind of fast growth thing, but it was scary to at first say truly what I wanted, and that's probably why I like Daphne the best because Daphne was the first item that I
Oh, it's the first one.
my team hated it, and I loved it, and I knew that that was the line customer, and every day they would slowly bring it back to my desk and be like, "Are you sure you wanna do this?" And I was like, "We're doing it, like, stop bringing this over." And it was in this butter yellow color, and we launched it at Copenhagen Fashion Week, and it went viral and
Yeah.
sold out in 2 weeks, and we sold 10,000 since, but it was that item that I knew. It was so obvious to me that that was a line, and it was not maybe as obvious to them at the time, and they hate when I tell the story now because we stole so many of it, but it was so clear to me.
Yeah. And in the beginning, you don't really know what's gonna go viral or what's gonna
I
work.
have no idea.
How did you know how much stock to order? Did you just have previous experience or you were kind of taking that risk?
So that's where, like, the highs and the lows came from,
Yeah.
is that we are a small batch brand. Part of making sure that we're being responsible in creating product and that there's not excess inventory. We're a full price brand. We don't do promotions and things that would create spikes in your sales. We definitely would sell our products too quickly. We still do. And then it's not seeing that as a failure. It's seeing it as like a learning to buy more the next time. So now, on a thing like Daphne, we have a good understanding what we're going to sell each week or month. So we have that under control. We've had a couple items we've launched this autumn winter that we've sold out of in a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you think, oh my goodness, if I only bought, I love that item. If I only bought twice as much, but equally it could not do well. And then you have to figure out what to do with that product.
Yeah.
We don't off price. So we have to be really responsible on the upfront and realize that selling through and going viral is a good thing. It gives us a piece of information and data to put into next decisions in the future.
And have you guys fundraised at all, or is this all like bootstrapped by the company?
So I'm really lucky that I have one private investor behind me that believes in me, and he luckily is in a position to keep, funding it. So
Yeah.
we haven't had to raise money or equity, but he's a big supporter of what I do. So I always say we're a full female company with a great group of men behind us who are championing us. But yeah, they're fantastic.
Maybe a menswear line coming soon.
They keep asking. I was like, let me grow women's wear first, but never know in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a few speed round questions for
Perfect.
you. Do you have a fashion hot take?
Not wearing white after Labor Day. I think it's a complete miss. I think white can be worn all year round.
I'm wearing white right
I
now.
know. I love a good pair of white jeans and a jumper or sweater in the middle of winter. So I think don't pack up your white jeans.
I love white in winter too. That's a good one. Fashion industry misconception.
That it's all creative and kind of like cutting up paper dolls and really like getting to use the creative side a lot. I spend majority of my time in spreadsheets. So having great Excel skills is a must if you want to join the fashion industry, whether it's planning an event or
Mhm.
planning a photo shoot or costing a line. I'm in a spreadsheet more days than I'm not.
I've had to learn that the hard way too. What is the best advice you've received?
I've touched on it, to trust my gut and not be afraid to say what I want and have my voice be the loudest in the room. I think maybe it's a female thing. We want to be collaborative and let more voices shine through, but sometimes it's
Mm,
okay for your voice to be the loudest.
yeah. Have you had mentors throughout this process? And kind of what is that relationship like?
I've had so many amazing mentors in my career. And I think it's such an important part of it. Whether it was Andrew Jennings, the president of Saks at the time, when he
Mm,
told me that I was a bit, brave just to tell Saks that they were wrong. He became a mentor for many years and still is in my career, but many other amazing people kind of behind me that allow me to kind of, talk openly. I also believe strongly in having a business coach. One of the best things I ever did was to invest in a business coach to speak to. So it's mentorship in a different form, but I
yeah.
think it's really important to have someone to talk through that can be objective and kind of listen to the challenges you're facing growing a business and give you an outside perspective.
Have you found yourself being a mentor to other people?
I think I've tried to be, and I think starting to more as, Align has become more on people's radar. I will always say yes to the coffee date. I think I learn things from them and they learn things from me, and there's a kind of a mutual benefit to it, and I think it's really important to kind of have those conversations, and I think championing other females is something that's really kind of important to me. I've been in this industry for a longer period of time than others and have seen the change. When I first started, there was more of like an initiation culture that,
Mm,
the people before you had done that and you just do it. And now things are changing. And I think it's important that not everyone has to have the same struggles that I had, that I can help them speed up along the way and not
yeah.
have to go through the same hurdles.
Do you have a resource recommendation? So, like maybe a book, podcast, newsletter?
I've been rereading Patty McCord's book Powerful.
Mm,
It's about Netflix and kind of building the Netflix culture. It's been around for many years. It's not a newer book, but I think the point in the line journey that we're at, we've grown so quickly that it was only 2 years ago that I was sitting in my office in East London, this tiny office with 8 people. And now we have two offices in London and we fill a hallway. And we've just, launched an office in Soho. And there's something really powerful about having to accept that we'll never be what we were in that first year.
mm,
And there's something that's nostalgic to me about it, but we've grown so quickly and being able to feel proud about that and not feel guilty that we can no longer sit around the table and that we have more people on the team and more functions. It can feel for those of us on the team that were there from the beginning, there can be this nostalgic that, like, it wasn't so long ago that we were doing this on a Friday and having a team lunch, and now it just feels that that's so quickly gone away and changed, and that book really helps give me clarity over that it's okay to miss it, but also to accept that, like, we're not gonna ever be that again, and that's powerful in itself.
Yeah. I haven't heard anyone really talk about that before, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, I saw another founder who does a vlog talk about it the other day, and I just was like, we're all kind of feeling that, and it's kind of nice to hear and share because there is a nostalgia to the beginning, especially, we're far from a scale up, but we're no longer
Mhm.
that startup we were with 8 people. Now
Yeah.
that we have an international team, and it can feel sad to miss those early days.
Yeah. But it's funny because I'm assuming, at least I'm thinking back to experiences of mine where like all you want to do is be bigger
Yeah.
and grow. And then you get out of it and you're like, wait, I kind of miss those days.
Well, it's harder, not everyone can be at the table anymore,
Yeah.
right? So I feel for the team that's been here from the beginning and that they miss those moments, but also we have to feel proud that now we have functions we didn't have before, and now we don't have, a team of 8. We have a team of 22, and that
Mhm.
we have these other functions, and you have to be able to celebrate that. But I think
Yeah.
it's happened so quickly. It kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I came to New York and opened an office in Soho that I realized how much we've grown in 2 years, because we literally opened it on our 2nd birthday. So it's
Well,
pretty crazy.
congratulations. I hope you
Thank
got a
you.
cake for that.
I didn't, I should have.
Do you guys have any upcoming announcements?
Well, as you mentioned, we just launched our collection with Lucy Bronze, and it's a year-long partnership, so we have another collection kind of dropping in the new year, which is really exciting, and then we're launching on Revolve.com probably later this week, so
Ooh, that's
not sure when
big.
this is airing, but they were kind of the 4th dream partner
Yeah.
and my matrix of, like, if I could have my dream 4. So we're on ShopBop, which I'm a huge ShopBop customer, and it's such an East Coast kind of anchor. And then obviously with Nordstrom, we're with
Mhm.
Anthropologie, and really the 4th kind of pillar to my omni-channel strategy was Revolve for my West Coast girlies. So
Oh,
super excited to see how they style it because it's the opposite of ShopBop and their styling, but I think it's really exciting to have that West Coast partner.
yeah. Well, congrats on completing your matrix
Thank you.
there.
It's super exciting.
And where can everyone find you and the brand?
So you can find Aligne at Aligne on Instagram or at align.co online. And you can find me at Ginny_H_Seymour.
Slide
Um,
into our DMs.
and slide into my DMs. We just changed my hashtag to have Ginny in it because I go by Virginia sometimes.
Oh,
I go by Ginny, but I write it Virginia sometimes.
yeah.
So we've updated it, hence the long handle. I couldn't get as cute of one, but we're trying. We're trying a Ginny handle.
Okay, good to know. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Yes, it was lovely to meet you and speak today. And I love that we're twinning.
I know.